is Andres, and in this video we'll go over orchid identification, pollination, and how you can make your own hybrids at home. First step is identify two orchids that are in the same genus or that they're related enough for them to crossbreed and produce viable seeds. For example, in the wild there is 28,000 different species of orchids divided in 700 genera, so we have to make sure that they're related enough. In this corner alone, there's about 10 different genera of orchids. Lucky for me, I have two right here that they are, even though they're not in the same genus, they're still related enough for them to produce viable seeds. Step 2. Identify viable flowers. Usually orchids flower once or twice a year depending on the species and how good you take care of them. For example, this one right here already flowered a while ago and is trying to die off, drying out the ovules, granting them useless for pollination. These two, however, are still green and plump. They're still good for pollination. Step 3. Identify flower parts. Most flowers have their male and female parts separate from each other, and their grains are easily spreadable, as you can see on my finger. Orchids are a little bit more particular on what or who gets to pollinize them. Their female and male parts are conjoined together into a new organ called column. Right here we have the orchid flower with all the petals, the labium. Right under here, the protrusion, that is what it is, the column. Right on top we have the anther, which is the male part. Right underneath we have the pollinia, which are just two masses of densely condensed pollen grains. They're just two on each side. Right underneath we have the stigma, which is just the female part, covered with mucilage of sugar and water to feed and hydrate the pollen grain once it enters it. Now for the fourth step, we're going to grab the pollinia from this flower and put it into the stigma of this flower, and the pollinia from this flower and put it into the stigma of this flower. With a clean needle, we're going to go ahead and remove the anther cap. Boop. And there we go. We have the two pollinia. You can see there's two. Each one of them has hundreds of little pollen grains that we can just introduce it boop, into the stigma, and it will stick right there. But we're not gonna do that in the same flower. We're just gonna go ahead and put it into the next flower. Now we're just gonna put the pollinia from the other flower into the stigma of this flower. Hold it there. There we go. And you're done. One thing to keep in mind is that after you pollinize them, the sole purpose of the flower is to get pollinized, so it'll simply dry off and start developing the seeds inside the ovules. So the pretty part will just die out, but the ovule will just bulge up and create seeds inside of it.